BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of BeastNet. Today I've got with me Kody and Allison. Would you guys like to explain really quickly who you are?
Sure. Kody, do you want to start or do you want me
Go
to?
for it, Allison.
Okay, so Kody and I are the co-creators, directors of Meandering Scars, which is a documentary about Erika Bogan, who I believe you know personally, and her efforts to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in order to raise awareness about suicide and mental health struggles in the disability community. So I believe that's why we're here talking to you today. But Kody and I, we co-own a production company called Birdmine, and that's how we, began the journey of creating this documentary.
Right on.
We both are former journalists, local news journalists across the country. Allison and I met, I guess it's more than a decade ago now. It's been, 14 years, 15 years since we first met as interns in a local sports, regional sports network in Philadelphia, and became friends. Later colleagues as we went on this journey and doing documentary, and yeah, look forward to this conversation.
Yes, I do too. I will be honest, I have not had the opportunity yet to watch the movie. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, as you said, I know Erika personally. I've done a couple, Spartan races with her and stuff like that. An amazing person, just gone through so much,
Mhm.
And still going forward and still helping others and raising awareness for the community, everything else like that. Can you give the audience a little idea for those who haven't watched the movie yet and may not know who Erika is, a little backstory on, what the documentary is?
Erika Bogan is a domestic violence survivor, became disabled because of domestic violence incidents. Former pageant winner who has been living with severe mental illnesses for the last 20 plus years since the incident, and it's been life changing. For a long time she didn't know what she wanted in life, wanted what to do, and then became aware of a group called More Heart Than Scars, doing obstacle course racing. And this was now 6 or so years ago, and she started racing, started doing obstacle course racing, started doing Spartans, and fell in love with it and fell in love with life again. And then, you know, through conversations, seeing a post on Facebook from Joey, one of the leaders in 2019 of More Heart Than Scars and doing Spartan races. Joey had posted about Kilimanjaro, wanting to do a trip. Erika said, I'm in, I want to do this. And they started talking, and then she started wanting to figure out, or knew at the time that she wanted to, if she was going to do this, that she wanted to do it to raise awareness about mental health and suicidal ideation within the disability community. And then about a year later, as they're doing that planning, that's sort of where we met her and where the documentary begins.
Yeah, and I guess I can pick up from there. So Kody and I, we started our company Birdmine in 2020. And at first, now we do narrative films as well. But when we first started, we were focused on documentary as former journalists. And so we weren't sure what our first documentary was going to be. We just knew we wanted to put out either short form or semi-longer form stories on our YouTube channel and on social media to try to give people an idea of what we were about, the types of stories we wanted to tell, and how we would tell them. And so this sort of idea was because, again, we didn't know what our first doc was going to be, and we were sort of like, maybe this will help lead us in the right direction, but either way, we're showing people what we're about. So we decide, both Kody and I are disability advocates. For me personally, I'll just share my own personal experience with it. My older sister is profoundly disabled developmentally, and my grandmother had MS. And so she, since I was a little girl, she used a wheelchair full time. So I grew up in disability culture. And so when Kody and I started this company, we knew that we wanted to tell stories specifically about the disability community, but just underrepresented communities as a whole. And so we decided for our first project, again, not documentary, just project we were going to post on social media and on our website, we were going to highlight people with disabilities making an impact in the fitness industry. And so because of my advocacy, I have a lot of friends in the disability community and in that network. And so people start introducing me to various people. And one of the people I was introduced to was Erika Bogan. She was introduced to me, though, as a CrossFit athlete, a CrossFit and Spartan athlete. And so we did like a pre-interview where, I talked to Erika on Zoom. I think we, talked for like an hour. We were just sort of, shooting the shit, like just learning about each other and about what we were all about. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this woman is perfect for this series that we're hoping to put together. And so, the pre-interview's done. We're just chatting and about to, log off. And Erika's like, oh, by the way, I'm, very casually, she kind of slips this in. And she's like, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And I was like, excuse me, you're doing what? I was like, way to bury the lead.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so then she tells me, she's sharing about how she's going to climb, and she's sharing her reasons, of wanting to climb, and that she wasn't just doing it to challenge herself physically. She had a purpose. And so I was like, Erika, this is amazing. I'm going to go talk to my business partner because this story in itself is just incredible. And so I called Kody immediately and was like, hey, I just talked to Erika and she's great, when it comes to Spartan and CrossFit, but what you need to know is that she's doing this. And I think we might have just found our first documentary if she's willing. And so Kody, pretty much almost immediately agreed, and we connected with Erika. And the next thing you know, we were starting our first documentary.
That's awesome. That is amazing. And it sounds, I mean, like I said, I've raced with her, and one of the things I think a lot of people don't get, and I'm hoping, I mean, they kind of understand after seeing some of this, is the challenges that people go through, but then people like Erica who are like, I'm gonna do it anyway, and watching her do some of the obstacles that, in Spartan races, because I've done a couple with her where they're like, people don't want to do it, they're afraid to do it, and then you watch her go up the slip wall with no help, just pulling herself up by her arms, crawling through, under the barbed wire, stuff like that. I mean, it's amazing. I've seen a couple athletes within Spartan. One of the stories I usually tell people, the first time I really did one, and I was a little bit bigger, I was about 300 pounds, and I wanted to quit. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And there was a gentleman named Casey who I've had on the show a couple of times, and I've talked to a bit. He's double amputee from pretty much the waist down. All of a sudden I come around the corner and here he is just trucking along. And I'm like, okay, what excuse do I have? I mean, he's out here doing it anyway.
Yeah.
What excuse do I have? And that's one thing it's amazing with Erika that, she does it, but like you said, she doesn't do it just to prove to herself. She does it to prove to others that this isn't the end. That you can still do more. You just might need a little help.
You should see her on Kilimanjaro. Watch the movie.
I'm going to.
And
I wanted to go to because they did the team
Yeah,
did,
we had a private screening.
Yeah, did the private screening, but I live in Texas and I wasn't able to get up there. So, yeah.
hopefully we have something in Texas coming up soon. Yeah, and and that's really the thing too, is that like what you see Erica go through physically, she's doing a lot of this on her own. And then you get to see the team aspect on portions of not just a Spartan race, but the juxtaposition to Kilimanjaro, where Erica's working with the team. So she's wheeling while the team guides, and has their setup that almost resembles a horse and buggy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that, and you see the two. You see America and what Erica's doing physically as she's racing, as well as how she's racing on this massive mountain. And so it's just, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, Erica's strong as hell, physically and mentally, and you
Yes.
can see that throughout the film as the two sort of areas between Kilimanjaro and America collide and sort of also separate themselves.
And I just want to mention too, like, I think something that's really important is not just, on the Spartan course, but on Kilimanjaro as well. Of course, Erika is paralyzed, so she does not have use of her legs. And so she has a team that helps her physically often, whether it be on the course or on Kilimanjaro.
Hmm.
But something that's so important, and I think that we, push in our documentary, is that we all have scars, whether yours are physical or mental. And so Erika, even though she physically might not always be able to complete an obstacle by herself, she is mentally helping so many of her teammates. And so, it's she has a physical scar, but so many of her teammates have, also struggle with mental health struggles. And she is there for them, lifting them in a very different way. And so it's this idea of every person, whether physically or mentally, has something that's going on, and we can all help each other through those struggles.
Yes. So how can people see the documentary?
They can come out to LA on June 28th. We'll be world premiering over at the TCL Chinese Theater as a part of Dances with Film. So
Wow.
that will be Saturday, June 28th at 10:30 a.m. If you can't make it out there, we understand travel is expensive, flights are expensive. We are still working on when our next screenings will be. So festivals, private screenings, et cetera, et cetera. Ultimately, though, we want to get this film in theaters. We want to get the documentary in theaters, few week run, 1,000+ theaters we want to get to. And so that'll come with distribution. Late fall, early winter, beginning of next year. That's sort of the timeline it usually takes when it comes to festivals, and then how long it takes to get distribution. So if you want to see this film, help us advocate for distribution at that point. But yeah, the very first date is Saturday, June 28th.
Well, and then you just said it. So how do we help advocate to get it? What can the listeners do to help you get this movie into theaters?
Sure. I mean, I would say just share about the movie. We're on social media. And so before we end this call, we want to take a screenshot of us on, so we're going to post, that we did this interview with you.
Hmm.
We're constantly sharing on social media about everything behind the scenes, photos and videos and information about the film and about our screenings. And so, the more followers we can get, the more people sharing the images and the videos that we share, the more likelihood that Meandering Scars and its message will spread. So that's really the goal. So for your listeners, please follow us, please share our stories and our photos that we post. And
Hmm.
that's definitely, I think, one of the most important parts of how you can help us.
And the two are at Birdmine Stories, that's the company, socials, and then at Meandering Scars is where you can find us for the film directly.
Yeah, right on. And then, like you said, it's going to be in the festival in LA on the 28th.
Yeah,
Yes.
so if people know anyone, we're trying to fill up the theater. So, like, for example, if you have friends in Southern California or around this area who would be willing to come up, it's $21 to come see the film. And so, not that expensive. And if you can spread the word and try to help
Hmm.
us fill the theater, that would be, amazing.
I will do everything I can. I mean, it's a worthy cause. Erica's amazing, and I mean, I think it's amazing you guys did the documentary so that you can help spread that message. I mean, it's one thing, like you said, the more hearts and scars, and actually, it's now become the
Dealers of
Dealers of
Hope.
Hope. Yep.
dealers of hope. Yeah, I mean, they're great organizations, and I mean, Erica and Joey have done a great job with Dealers of Hope, in trying to help the community and help
Mhm.
people, understand, like you mentioned. I mean, we all have scars. It's a matter of, we see Erica, we see, some of the other people out on the course who obviously have physical issues and physical, you know, scars that make it difficult for them. But a lot of us, have the hidden ones, the ones inside our own head. And a lot of the people like Erica who has, the physical, she also has the mental inside her head because I mean everything like you mentioned, how she became,
Yeah.
you know, paralyzed. I mean, that's gonna do a lot to a person, and to show that she can rise above
Hmm.
both those physical and mental to do these kind of events and, climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Most able-bodied people
Yeah,
can't
it's
and
hard.
won't do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, she did it in a wheelchair. She went to the top.
Yeah, and it was a
And
struggle the whole way.
Yeah.
that's the thing too, like you're saying, it's what they're doing that you see within this confined 2+ year period. What Erica's advocating for, what Joey's advocating alongside and for, and what they do on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean, their biggest message was, you know, your life matters,
Mhm.
every ounce of it. And if you're struggling that day, let's find something that can get you going, whether it is, athletically and going out to a Spartan race. And if that's not your thing, it's going on a stroll around your neighborhood, or it's watch a favorite movie, read a book, listen to a good podcast that's going to, have you feel, a little more whole again. And I think that's part of, what we're trying to show as fly on the walls in the documentary, but also just what they do day to day, right? Like they're Joey's going back up this year, and he is going up multiple years to take anyone who reaches out to him and who goes up to Kilimanjaro, right? Because it's not easy. It's
No.
hard. It's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard if you're able-bodied. It's hard if you're disabled. Um, it is very difficult. Erica's one of the few wheelers to attempt Kilimanjaro, and so it's, the hope is more people will do it, and there's a showing of, the importance of accessibility and the importance of, just having a community give a damn about one another, and how we can all, ultimately help each other up our own proverbial mountains,
Mhm.
whether
Yeah.
it's physically or mentally.
No.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to share something the documentary touches on is, Erica's struggles mentally. Of course, when she was first paralyzed, of course that shook her world, but it became more about the inaccessibility that she faced in society. It became more about the financial struggles people with disabilities face, right? Like she was not, her experiences mentally and her struggles mentally, I should say, really was a product of just her day-to-day life in America. And of course, this, it's not just America, every country. If
Yeah.
anything, America is better than a lot of other countries in the way that we treat people with disabilities, but we have such a long way to go. And Erica's sort of her life really shares, I mean, within the documentary and sharing her experiences, it shows that her mental struggles really stemmed from, like I said, these experiences of struggling financially, of struggling with inaccessibility. And so throughout the film, we actually also spoke to the only researcher in the country who focuses at the intersection of suicide and mental health struggles and the disability community to kind of show that Erika's not alone, right? Like this is a prevalent problem, and people with disabilities are facing these mental struggles because exactly what Erika's saying, because of what, of these constraints that they experience.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen that. I do comedy. I haven't done as much since I moved to Texas, but I did a lot in when I lived in Seattle. And I had a friend of mine who was, had issues moving around and stuff like that, and was disabled. And that was one of the biggest things that we ran into all the time was her being able to do comedy shows as a comedian,
Mhm.
because most comedy shows, the stage, it's a step up, and
Mhm.
very few of them put in a ramp
Yep.
so that somebody with an issue like that could get up there. I can remember being at one show and it wasn't her, it was a different comedian that we actually literally, because it was a downstairs comedy show, it was, on the underground that doesn't exist anymore. And we actually had to pick up the guy in the wheelchair and carry him down the stairs just so he could get into the club.
Yep.
And it's like, why, it's getting more common that they're putting these things in, but it's amazing to think until you're around people that have these things, you as, like I said, an able-bodied person, don't think about it.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
where that's the difficulty, right? We thought with the ADA there we solved it, right? We
Yeah.
solved a lot of issues, and then what is it now? Almost 35 years later, there's population is growing, and there's more issues, and ADA didn't solve everything, and
No.
so there's an expansion of disability rights that we need to start looking at. It's good, right, to support folks with disabilities in every avenue of life, and that includes comedians, and that includes helping folks get to the bottom of a staircase in order to perform and
Hmm.
to perform extremely well and be their whole selves and funny as hell, right? Like, but
Yeah.
that should be that it shouldn't take all of us to do that, to show that there's an issue here, and that there shouldn't be in the first place. There should be a ramp down, or an elevator down, and that's not on just the club. That's on society as a whole, governments as a whole, in order to enact a massive change.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I think what you run into too is you get people like, Allison, you grew up with people that had these, this kind of stuff. I didn't grow up with, but I knew people. So there was people within my life. So I would see this, problem. So it's like for me, I mean, in my daily life, I'm a safety professional, and I've been on job sites where all of a sudden it's like we had to cut off, a sidewalk so we could do work. And they made an entrance like on the side or in the back so that people could still get into the building. And I'm like, but it's steps.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
they're looking at you going, yeah, and what's that got to do with anything? And I'm like, there was a ramp.
Hmm.
Now it's only steps. So anybody who comes here who isn't able-bodied, is in a wheelchair, can no longer use this store, this restaurant, this facility because you just took it away.
Yeah.
And they just look at you with that blank stare like, I never even thought of that. And I'm like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember interviewing this woman, her name's Lauren Applebaum, and she I forget her exact role, but she works for what was Respectability. Now it's called Disability Belongs, and they do a lot of advocacy for people with disabilities,
Hmm.
specifically in the entertainment industry. And something she was talking about one time that really struck me is how being accessible doesn't just help people with disabilities, it helps everyone. So, for example, she was talking about how on set, right, like on a movie set, they hired her because I believe there were people who are in wheelchairs or who were involved in the movie. And so something that they did was they made sure that the area of the set had ramps all over so these people could get around, fine. And what what they found though is that it's not just helping the people who are in wheelchairs, right? Like the people who are moving clothing back and forth, the people who are, moving the sets themselves and are rolling them on these, I don't know what they're called, like these sort of, I don't know what they're called.
Dollies.
Dollies. Yes,
Probably.
thank
Yeah.
you. Brain is not working. Need more coffee.
Yes.
So it's it's helping everyone. It's not just helping the person with disabilities. And so, I mean, it should be enough that you're just helping the people with disabilities, but it's this idea that becoming more accessible helps everyone.
It does, and I think a lot of it, like we said, is perspective. I mean, that's one thing that we did in one club is we pretty much brought a wheelchair in, handed it to the guy who ran the club, and said, "Cool, now get around."
Yep.
But you can't get out of that chair. And he's like, "Well, I can't get." There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing the people that want to come to the show who can't. So you're missing out on audience members, and you're missing out on comedians who can't. And I mean, I've seen it too. Like when I've broken a leg, all
Yep.
of a sudden it's like, these ramps are really nice, and stairs really aren't. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember they did that. I think Joey did that with Joe, the CEO of Spartan, didn't he,
Hmm.
Cody? They
I
like,
believe so. Yes.
yeah, they like took him around a course in a chair. I mean, Spartan's amazing. They do
Yeah.
so much work for the disability community. I just remember thinking how cool that was that, the CEO of Spartan did that. They, he wanted to experience what his accessible or his disabled athletes experience when they go through the course. And, you know, he did it himself. So,
Yeah. Which is amazing. I mean, it is, and it's one of those things Spartan has done a lot for, you know, disabled community. Most of us don't know this. Most of the time, we as people helping the racers, they pretty much cover our cost
yeah.
for the race.
Yeah.
Not for travel. We still travel, pay for travel, but we get to go there. But we agree when we do that that we are there for the racer and we stay with the racer. You know, we did World's Toughest Mudder last year with a racer, and it was pretty much we weren't on course unless they were because we were an
Yeah.
extension of them.
Of course. And I mean, it's expensive to do Spartan races. So it's, I mean, to cover the costs of all those people, it's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, it is. They do an amazing job helping the community because I mean it's one of those things you want it to be inclusive. You want other people to get involved, and I mean it's really tough when you know they can't. You know, but it's amazing to see those smiles and everything else when someone who thought they would never be able to do one of those courses because of their, you know, disability, and all of a sudden they do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get to roll in the mud, you get to be outdoors and in the wilderness. I mean, what's better to spend now when it monsoons out or it like downpours? That's if that's your thing, that's great. But I mean, most of the time it's sunny, cloudy. You just get to be outdoors with your friends. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no better way to spend a Saturday or Sunday.
there isn't. It actually did that. We did the Spartan Ultra with a wheelchair athlete a couple years ago in was it North Carolina, and it downpoured. And actually, there was thunder and lightning that was getting close enough that they were going to cut the course to stop the course. And we're like, we need to go because we need to finish this before the lightning hits.
Oh
So
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'd say it was interesting. It was an interesting time.
Oh, we saw. I mean, you'll see some of it in the film too. We went with Erica for World's Toughest Mudder when she went, and it was. I mean, the conditions. You're looking at December in Alabama, and you wouldn't think it was cold as ice, but it was because of cold front and rain that were coming through, and you know what she endures is similar to what she endures on the mountain at that time. And it's wild to think about that, right? It's wild to think about some of the conditions that you get on um, below sea level in an area that's usually in the 80s, 90s, maybe in December it's 50s, but never in the 30s and never raining at the time.
Mhm.
And then just to think about Erica in a wheelchair as a disabled athlete and just what she has to go through and go into water that other folks have to go into too. It's a it's a it's difficult. It really is.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't think about it too. A lot of times when you have those kind of injuries and those kind of things, your body doesn't always heat up and, you
Yep.
know, everything else the way it's supposed to. So I know Erica does have some problems with that, like with the, you know,
Yeah.
temperature
Temperature
regulation. So
regulation. Yeah.
so when she's in and out of the cold, the water like that and stuff, I mean, it takes a toll. It's rough.
Yep.
It really is. Yeah. And you see that throughout the film too. Just that different aspect of it. Um, and I think for the film and for viewers just as a whole, um, as you know, Erica, as you've you're friends with her, gotten to spend so much time with her. Erica's relatable, right?
Hmm.
Erica's life is very relatable to a lot of people, and I think that's what we try to show within Meandering Scars within the documentary, uh, so it can reach out to more folks. It's especially for a podcast like this. You have a diverse audience, right? Diverse audience that loves whether it's Spartan races, obstacle course races. Um, and that's great. And you get to see sports, and you get to see sports live and or not live, but in 4K and just beautiful coloring. But then you get to learn about people, just like you get to learn about people on the race course, either before or afterwards or during, as you're, you know, helping someone up or having to do burpees because you failed an obstacle course because or failed an obstacle because life sometimes throws that at you and you for whatever reason you just can't climb up the wall that day, and so you get to do 30 push-ups with someone or 30 burpees. And you get to see that in this film, just the relatability of folks, as you do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's you know, eye-opening to see someone in their struggles and all their scars and the, imperfections like the rest of us are, just
Yeah.
imperfect creatures.
Yeah. And I think the one thing too is a lot of people think too, like when they think about some of these adaptive athletes, they think pretty much like you said, they got this set up almost like a chariot, um, that they just sit in the chair and then we pull them through a course. And it's like, no, they get out and they do things. Like I said, Erika crawls through under the barbed wire by herself, dragging her legs. She goes up the slip wall. She climbs things, with a little bit of help from us, but she climbs and she does a lot of this stuff. She does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing I think that is the biggest misconception. Because I think I was talking to someone one day and they're like, oh, so they just sit in a chair and you guys pull them through the whole course. So what are they really doing? And I'm like, no, they get out of the chair. They do quite a bit, but it's amazing just to see the strength and what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you see that too. I mean, you have athletes that um have similar spinal cord injuries as Erika, but it's a completely different um fracturing of the spine, and so their mobility is less than Erika's, um, or different where it's neck down through the waist into legs. You can't really, they have no feeling, but are still learning how to walk, and so you'll see folks um, that More Heart Than Scars and now Dealers of Hope work with, and athletes that they work with to um, whatever mobility they have or don't have to be able to say, okay, let's go complete this. Let's try to pull up. Let's try to walk through the mud in the water, swim. Erika, anytime she goes out or just throughout the film, you'll see her, as you said, the split wall. She'll pull herself up, crawl under the barbed wire, throw any weights around, wheel throughout the course. It's the physicality is there throughout, and it's unbelievable because the courses are hard. They're tough.
Hmm.
They're tough to get through for any person, and she gets through, and the team gets through too, and just has a blast doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's amazing. There's no greater feeling. I know. The obstacle course racing is a blast. Really, and what's funny is now I pretty much only do obstacle course racing when I'm with the group. So
Mm-hmm.
other than
Wow,
that, I pretty much don't do any obstacle course racing. Mainly for me now, it's been triathlons, which I've been talking to Joey about, and we might be having a couple athletes on those. So
that'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. That'll be an interesting. The hardest part that we keep trying to figure out is the swim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we got to have like I think he has a float. I can't remember what he calls it, but we could put him in and pull behind the swimmer, like swim in front and pull him.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
that'll be fun. We'll have to look out for video or try to get out there with y'all, depending on where it's at.
yeah, we're hoping. So we're hoping. It's just one of those things. Like I said, I'm in Texas, and I know there's an athlete here that wants to do triathlon. So it's one of the things me and Joey have been talking about a few times, is trying to figure out how to do that. But I think it's going to be just with how tough it's going to be, depending on if it's a short triathlon. I think one person can probably help somebody, but on that, I think you're going to need a couple because that swim's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Trying to swim while pulling.
Yeah. It's a lot of weight.
Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, that's one thing that's great about, Dealers of Hope and everything like that, that Erika and Joey have. It's about inclusion. It's
Yeah.
about getting everyone going and keeping people that wouldn't be able to do these things to be able to
Yeah.
do them. So, and it sounds like pretty much that's what the entire, documentary is Erika being able to do this anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really it's showing her journey. It's showing her journey up Kilimanjaro, her while also sharing, that she is not alone, and her experiences are so similar to those of, so many people with disabilities, in wanting to be part of community, and also while sharing, why they
Yeah.
struggle mentally within society. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can see that because that's one of the big things too. A lot of people don't think about, like people like Erika, who you mentioned was in pageants and pageant winner and everything else, and had this entire life, and then had it all taken away. And now her life is completely different. You know, in a way, her life ended and a new one began. You know, and it's like, how do you balance, and mourn this previous life that you had, and
Yeah.
create this new one where you're in a chair.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah, and that's the balancing act from a mental standpoint, and then
Hmm.
dealing with the societal struggles, right? Like Erica, born able-bodied, becomes disabled through domestic violence, learning how to live live differently, adjust, learn how to use a chair, and then learn how to use a chair on her own, and then go through, you know, the day-to-day grind that we all go through as
Mhm.
able-bodied folks and as disabled folks, right? And she'll go to a grocery store, and that's where the mental health aspect comes, because once you start adjusting, going, okay, this is my life, I'm going to make it the best life possible. You have folks that are just not understanding of who you are and that you are a full person, a whole person,
Yeah.
and will then go, oh, congratulations of getting out of bed today, because you're going grocery shopping like anyone else, because of not understanding that just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't go shopping.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, part of what Erica wants to show, and part of, the research aspect of this too, is to show that these are the struggles, from a societal aspect, and just a misunderstanding of what disability is, and just the differences that folks with disabilities go through, and how different it is for the every disabled person as it is for able-bodied people, and then how we can better relate to one another, and better, you know, help each other as we, continue to um, move towards a better community and better society.
Yeah, it's really changing the way the world views disability, right? It's so when someone in a chair or someone who has autism or someone who, whatever the disability is, goes to a store, people aren't, inclined to make comments like, you're so inspiring for going grocery shopping. Like it's we hope the movie starts a movement really that people with disabilities, I mean, difference is normal.
Yeah.
And it's creating a world where difference is more accepted and looked upon as the quote unquote norm. And so
Yeah.
again, changing the way the world views disability.
Yeah, which would be amazing. I'm getting people to look at it differently. I mean, the other thing is too is, I mean, you don't think about how things like everyday things for us are completely not made for somebody
Yep.
who, has a disability. When something like that happens, it's like, you really want to test something, go get a wheelchair and try going through your house.
Yeah.
Go get a wheelchair and go to, like you mentioned, go to the store. Now you want that cereal that's on the third shelf.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and it's little things like that that we take for granted, that we don't even think about, that is completely different for them. But like you said, then people are like, oh, I'm amazed, you did such a great job, you got out of bed. It's like, that's usually the easiest struggle.
Mhm.
It's everything else, trying to live in a society and somewhere where nothing is made for someone with disabilities. I mean,
Yeah.
even just using the kitchen counter, rolling up to a kitchen counter, you can't because, you know, the
Yeah.
cabinets are in the way. So a lot of times people that have something happen like Erica did, if they have, like, God forbid something happened to me or someone right now, I would have to remodel this entire house just to be able to function.
Yep. I mean, honestly, it's not just changing the way the world views disability, it's thinking about disability because
Hmm.
so many people in our society don't think about disability.
Yeah.
It's taboo or something. They want to look away. And that needs to change. We need to think about, again, we need to think about they're a part of our community, and it's creating a world that is inclusive for all of us, not just them. So,
Yeah. It's one of those things, like I mentioned, I'm a safety professional in real life, and I've done construction jobs and stuff like that. And when building buildings and stuff like that, I've had multiple times I've looked at buildings and said, hey, when we're coming up with a safety plan, it's like think of every possible scenario.
Mhm.
And then when you're looking, going, okay, now think of every possible scenario of how this will be used when it's done. And I can guarantee you, 7 times out of 10, not one person is going to think, oh, a wheelchair would be able to use this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even put it into their brain. And then if you ask them, they're like, oh yeah, I never even thought of that. Like, and
Mhm.
that's part of the problem.
Yep.
It's the grading of a ramp and how steep is the ramp and how wide is the ramp and then how wide are doors and then are there elevators? Are escalators even accessible at that point too? And then how large of an elevator is it in order to allow folks to get up to certain floors to just work that day?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's everything. I mean, we filmed a completely different story, but you see it in cities, in rural areas, right, where even maybe outside your home, where sidewalks are too thin, that a wheelchair can't go on, or there's roots that are lifting a sidewalk up, and so yeah, you can step around that. Um, but if you're in a wheelchair, where's the struggle there? Or is there a curb for you to exit off of? Are there the dimples if you are have
Sight impaired?
your walking
Yeah.
when you have your walking stick and you are either eyesight is not 20/20 if you have a guide with you or a dog with you or just walking on your own, right? Just the little things in society, how to make it a little bit more accessible.
And that is so true. Like I said, with the construction and stuff like that, I for years in Washington taught traffic control safety, stuff like that for when we're doing construction jobs. And one of the biggest mistakes I saw all the time was, oh, we're going to take this sidewalk away and we're going to make this path over here. And I'm looking going like, that's like basically a deer path. I mean, it's a able-bodied person could walk right down that perfectly. Can you get a wheelchair down it? Oh,
Yeah.
well, the wheelchair is going to have a problem with that. Well, then there's the problem. You just took away a 4 foot sidewalk and gave them like a trail that's a foot wide.
You're right.
It's like, why, how is it that, and that's the problem. People just don't see an issue with it. They're like, oh, people will be able to get that and that just fine. Even someone with a walker is going to have problems on that. So, I mean, a
Yeah.
wheelchair's got no shot. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you had to really explain to people, like if you take away something that is, ADA compliant, you need to give back ADA compliant. And really we should have ADA compliant should just be the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which I'm hoping a lot of people see this and, start to see the differences that, they need to look at with these and, really make things more compliant
Hmm.
for ADA and all of that. So, so do you have any other ones that you're working on besides this? I mean, this one sounds like amazing and I can't wait to get a chance to see it, but do you have any other ones in the works? Or are we not supposed to talk about those yet? Or those super secret?
I
We
mean,
have one short film that's out right now that has distribution called 13 that Allison wrote and directed about her own life and lived experience as a love letter to her mom's advocacy for her sister. That's really the only one out right now. We're in the works and looking at other documentaries. Allison is helping film a short documentary right now with a close friend of ours, and we're both working on scripts for narratives. And I think we've been talking about working on a new documentary for us for I don't know 6+ months now, but
but
but the focus is meandering right now. The focus is ensuring, since it's just the two of us in the company, to put all of our intention and attention into making sure that the message gets out, the film gets out. We have conversations with folks. We hear tough questions, especially when it comes to suicidal ideation and suicide and mental health and how folks react to that, how folks react to physical trauma and mental trauma and how that looks, and getting it out to a, as wide of an audience as possible, because in the film industry and in specifically documentary, it's less about the general public and more about you're making a film for a specific audience. But we feel that because of the topics, because of our own mental trauma, mental health trauma within America, especially over the last 5, 10, 15 years, that this is relatable to a large swath of folks. And it's trying to focus on that and trying to get that out. And then, at some point, Allison and I will figure out that next documentary, or someone will figure it out for us, and we'll be able to, continue the good work in whatever topic it may be.
Well, I think the thing too with when you start putting in the suicide ideation and all that stuff, it's a huge stigma of that if you talk about it, you're putting it in their brain. You're making them
Yeah.
think about it. And it's that's we all know that's not true. If someone's gonna be doing that, it's already there. Most time by talking about it, you're gonna give them the option to actually talk to you about it and like hopefully work their way through it. I worked for the AGC of Washington for a while, and there was a really big AGC had a huge thing on suicide awareness in construction workers and stuff. I actually had to talk at the governor's conference a couple of times in Washington about, and present on it. And that was one of the biggest things is most people have that thought that if you say the words or you even ask somebody, are you thinking of this? That you're putting the idea in their head. It's like, no, if you ask, if the idea wasn't there, it's not going to suddenly be like, oh, hey, it's going to be
Yeah.
like, no, they're just going to deny it. But if it's there, you give that, you opening that door for them to talk to you about it and hopefully, you know, talk them down and help them understand that it's not the answer and the world is better with them in it.
Yeah, I think Kody and we've also, I mean, the messaging obviously of meandering scars is so important, and we've learned that, on a first person basis of, I'm not going to mention exactly what, the entity that we were working with, but like the mention of suicide within something we were creating about meandering scars, they wanted it taken out. And it's
Hmm.
for Kody and me, it was like, but that is such a focus of our film. It's suicide prevention. And so that experience was eye-opening for me. And I'm assume for Kody, because that's the reality, that's the upward battle we're facing, even with meandering scars, because there is such a stigma against suicide and mental health struggles, and especially because we're talking about it within the disability community. And so, because there is a stigma around disability. So it's, yeah. So for right now, Kody and I mean, we have our work cut out for us in trying to, we created this film, and now we are doing everything possible to try to get it out there, because the messaging is so important. And we are facing, like I just said, an upward, we're pushing upstream, because there are so many people who want to avoid these topics.
Yeah, and just add on to that really quickly. I mean, it's for larger festivals, especially even smaller festivals, you may get one, two films that are disability focused in larger festivals, and smaller festivals you may not get any. And that part of that disability focus may just be an actor with a disability. I know we may be the only film that's disability focused, full film that's disability focused at Dances with Films. There may be another film with an actor with disabilities that we will go support at Dances with Films, and we're trying to figure out if there are any others that we can uplift at that point. We tried to get into a festival earlier this year, and they had told us that we scored really well and that the film was really well received. But one of the reasons why we didn't get in, probably the main reason why we didn't get in, was because they had just done over the last like year or two stories of people, and this is their words, overcoming obstacles. And so that's still sort of the struggle when talking about, disability, right? It's not just overcoming an obstacle, it's the way of life,
Yep.
Hmm.
the way that we or folks within the disability community live, and we as advocates and allies in that, and how we can help support, but with disabled folks leading in their own life. And so, it's that, and it's like, yes, when you talk about mental health, yes, you can overcome, but where are you after that triumph, right? You're still back there, right? Because
Yep.
those scars don't go away.
No.
You just try to find tools that help within that, and so that's part of why as Allison said, the focus is on this film right now because we're still dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, even within the film industry, and how they view a topic of mental health and suicidal ideation in particular, and how disability and the disabled community are viewed even in the film industry,
Yeah.
in news
Yeah.
industry, in other industries in life.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me because it's one of those things like the overcoming obstacles. To me, an idea of a movie, someone overcoming an obstacle is an athlete who broke a leg,
Right.
overcame it, came back and were stronger or better or just as good.
Right.
This isn't an overcoming an obstacle. This
No.
is adjusting to a new life. This is
Yep.
adjusting to a life, not an obstacle. Yeah, I don't know how to say it completely, but yeah, you know what I mean. This is a new
Exactly.
reality.
Exactly. And also, I mean, the movie, we film with Erika after the climb too, because like what just piggybacking off of what Kody said, it's Erika climbed this mountain with a purpose. And of course it helped her own mental health being able to complete something like this. But like Kody
Mhm.
just said, when you struggle with suicidal thoughts and mental health struggles, and you are the victim of domestic violence and intense trauma, those scars don't go away. You learn to
Yep.
live with them. And that's the thing is our film, we show this amazing woman, of course, experiencing something incredible, her journey on this mountain, but it's really a holistic view of society, of her experiences as a disabled person in society, and how we as a society can uplift the disability community, specifically when it comes to their mental health struggles. And the fact that whether you're disabled or not, when you have mental health struggles, it doesn't end when you do something incredible. I mean, it continues, and it's a journey. Meandering Scars, our film name, it's our scars meander. Like,
Hmm.
it's not a straight journey. It's a ebbs and flows. It's like constant up and downs. And that's just life,
Yeah.
that's how life, that is what we all face in life, disabled or not.
Yeah. I mean, you
We
wake up one day feeling amazing, and you wake up the next day,
Yep,
yeah.
and
exactly.
that's where, we thought the filming would be 1 year. We thought we would have 1 year to film, put out a film, in maybe 2 years, 1 year to film, 1 year in post production, 2 years, and then we're presenting the film at different film festivals, distribution, and then off to our next film. And right now we'd be talking about a completely different film, and that's not the case because there's delays in life. There's pandemics. There's real
Hmm.
world aspects that affect someone's life, and we have to be there, and we want to be there to film. And so that gave us the opportunity to really sit and think, well, what do we want to do with this film? What do we want to do? And so we, Allison and I both thought about, how does this film end potentially, right? There's no ending. It's a documentary. You can't force an ending, but how does this end? Instead of just being done, no matter what happens on the mountain, whether Erika makes it up or not to the top, we wanted to see, with Erika's blessing, of course, and we got that, was what happens after that climb.
Mhm.
What happens, when you're back home? Do you want to continue your advocacy? Where is the world at that point? Where are you mentally, right? Do you want to just, be done with the advocacy part of your life and sort of move on to something else? Is this going to be everything that you put into your life, your whole self into the advocacy aspect of it? And we wanted to sort of, as a hypothesis, as a theory, to start looking at that aspect. And that's sort of where you see, um, the last third of the film, last quarter of the film, where are we at now,
Yeah.
in that, and where are you at mentally? And because, as Allison said, life ebbs and flows for all of
Mhm.
us,
Hmm.
disabled or not. And so, um, not everything gets a happy ending, a storybook ending. And so we wanted to see from a real life what that looks like.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I can't wait to find a way to see this movie. So,
We'll
because I
keep
know
you
I can't make it to LA on the 28th. I am just gonna,
posted.
I would love to, but we'll definitely put out the episode and tell everyone, all the listeners, we'll make sure that there's links on how to find this and go on June 28th to go see this.
Yeah, we can email you links.
Mhm.
We can send you a link to our website, a link to where people can buy the tickets. And so, if anyone happens to be in Southern California, they can come.
Yeah, which would be awesome. Like I said, I wish I could get down there, but it's yeah. I'll actually I'll be on the West Coast, but I'll be in Washington. So
Okay.
Great.
yeah, I'll be
Cool.
climbing my own mountain that weekend. But so, all right. So, is there anything else you want to say to the listeners before we go? We're about at that hour mark. So,
No, just thank you for the opportunity, and we're grateful for the support for Meandering Scars.
oh yeah, I mean, anything we can do. I mean, email us, let us know. I mean, if you want to do another one of these to help promote it later on for another showing or whatever, let me know. This is a great cause, and we're definitely behind you.
Thank you.
We
Welcome.
appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.